Hello students and welcome to Module 3. This is Interdisciplinary Philosophies and Theories. We're going to be looking at this time how to identify a phenomena of interest, and you'll find that the phenomena of interest is really important when you start looking at and thinking about your D&P project. You're going to look at how scientific philosophies and theoretical approaches are going to impact the phenomena of interest, and then you're going to explore significant ways of knowing about the phenomena of concern. And so I know that you have looked at in one of your other courses ways of knowing, and so we're just going to kind of dig a little deeper and go a little bit different angle talking about the ways of knowing during this module that we're working in. So here you see what your student learning activities are. It gives you your reading assignments and what you'll look for there, where your resources are for that. And then you're going to, for your assignments, this module, you'll do a discussion forum on the ways of knowing, and then you're going to complete an assignment, which is a questionnaire. So for your ways of knowing discussion forum, if you'll look on down, you'll see the different PowerPoints that are available for you. Those are from the book, so if you're interested in looking at those are a good overview for you. And then in your resources to enhance learning, you'll see a little video about the different ways of knowing. You'll look at phenomena, and then there's also another file that talks about the ways of knowing as well. So those are just additional resources for you to look at, and that might help you in your understanding a little more. But the first thing that you're going to do, the first part of the assignment that is due, is the Ways of Knowing discussion forum. And be sure you look at your calendar for that, because you're going to post your you have a date to post your original post regarding the ways of knowing and answering these questions. And then you're going to have a second date where you need to have all of your responses to your peers completed by. So there are two dates actually. So be sure that you look at your course calendar for that. So when we're talking about the ways of knowing, you probably already know that there are 4 patterns of knowing that were first identified by Carper in 1978, and then about 30 years later, Chen and Kramer in 2008 came back and added a 5th pattern of knowing. And so what I would like for you to do is read through, explore about the ways of knowing, patterns of knowing, and then I want you to, in your post, I want you to answer these questions or include this information. Who first identified the fundamental patterns of knowing and what was their purpose? How are these patterns of knowing important to the application of nursing theory to practice? How can these patterns of knowing help the student describe and explain the phenomena of interest? And then how can the patterns of knowing inform your D&P project? And of course, you will want to support your discussion with peer-reviewed references. Be sure they're up to date, where you may see that somebody has used this even in a D&P project or talked about this in some of the literature. Of course, your text is always a source that you can use as well. So in that, let me show you let me walk you through what the evaluation criteria are. There's a minimum of 3 posts per discussion forum. That means 1 original post, no later than 11:59 on the due date on the calendar. where you are responding to these questions that I have there for you, and then you're going to facilitate the discussion. That means when your peers talk to you, you talk back to them. That doesn't officially count as the minimum of 3. What you will do is you will read through your peers' responses, and you will post in the discussion forum to 2 other students no later than 11:59 on the due date posted on the calendar. So even though you have a minimum of 3 posts, be sure that if you're corresponding with one of your peers, that you answer them back. If they use you as one of their, they're talking about your post that you've put on there, be sure that you answer them back and respond to that. That's part of facilitating the post, what we talk about. And then it says that this is a 50-point assignment, and if you look at the criteria, the grading guide, you'll see that what the points are for on there, and so just be sure you look at that carefully. If you were to have any questions about this, be sure that you ask your course faculty about those questions, and we'll be glad to clarify if you have any questions whatsoever. Then the second part of this assignment or this module, it's talking about the phenomena of interest. And so in your reading, what you'll find is that a lot of the reading that is listed up there is related to the phenomena of interest. And so you have a questionnaire basically, and it's really good for you when you're looking at this questionnaire, and it has a few activities too, but it's a really good resource for you to use when you're looking through your text, because what you'll find is a lot of these questions come straight from your text, and you can answer those. And it's things like, what is phenomena? What is a nursing phenomena? What is a phenomena of interest? So it's basic things. So when you are submitting this, just include the question and then answer right after it, and that way we can see where your answers are. We're not trying to search for them, and see if you've answered that. So like, on question 1, what is a phenomena? Answer it right after that. Then you've got some that go on down, and it's got like some blanks. So be sure that you highlight that what you have included in those blanks, so that we can see that you've answered the question clearly. The next section, so you start out and you've got several questions related to the phenomena of interest, and then it says list 2 potential phenomena of interest, POIs is what it's called there, in which the D&P student has some clinical expertise. I'm talking about what you know from your clinical experience and interest, and which is valued health-related issue in nursing practice setting. So what is something that you know about that could actually be that you have some clinical expertise on and have some interest in, that could be a POI or potentially be a POI? And, something in your current practice, list it out there. There's 2 of those. And then it says choose one of those. So take one of those 2 and explain why it's a topic of concern from your experience there. And then it says answer the following questions and complete the activities related to using nursing theory to explain a phenomena. And so you can find your answers there in the course text. And so it'll tie it back together on how that relates back to nursing theory, your phenomena of interest. And so you'll answer those in the next section. Then it says choose a theory which could be applied to help explain your POI of your choice. Then answer the following questions. And so the assignment just kind of builds on the part before as you're working your way through that. And so there's a few questions there. You can include the questions. Just be sure you answer it right after it. And then at the bottom it says there are some additional information. This is not something that you do. It ends right there at that last section that I was just telling you about, but under additional information, this is just some information I put down there. I said review the actions plan, next steps. That's just for your understanding and learning. You don't have to do anything in that part there. And then it says use table 5-2 phenomena assessment worksheet as you begin to identify your POI. The reason that I included that is because you as a DNP student, you're going to be developing a project, and so this is just some basic information that could help you as you begin that process and begin thinking about it. So for the grading rubric, this is a 100-point assignment. The first part that's worth 20 points is just that you answer your questions thoroughly related to the POI, and that you support your answers with peer-reviewed references. Then the next section, it says you list 2 appropriate potential POIs in which you have a clinical experience and interest. Choose one of those POIs and explain why it's a topic of concern, and you're going to support your answer with peer-reviewed references. So what you did in 2, you're going to add to it in 3 there. Answer all the questions thoroughly related to theory, because we add a theory to it, and support your answers with peer-reviewed references. And then lastly, it says choose one theory and explain how it could be applied to the chosen POI. Answer all the related questions thoroughly and support your answers with peer-reviewed references. So you have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 points there that you would have. And then it does say, I just want you to realize this, it says up to 20% of the total points of this assignment may be deducted for an overall lack of scholarship, including correct APA format. That's talking about references and in-text citations. If you have grammar errors, sentence structure, spelling errors. So if your assignment is difficult to read because the sentence structure is so poor in it, then up to 20% of the assignment can be deducted because of poor grammar on here, or poor use of the APA format. So this should be, as long as you're spelling correctly and using correct sentence structure, grammar, all those things, and then using for your in-text citations and your references, you're using correct APA format, you should be fine on this assignment. I hope that when you're able to review through this and find the answers for this, I hope that maybe this will be kind of one of those light bulb moments where you're kind of putting all the pieces together, how theory can tie in with a phenomena of interest, something that you have clinical expertise in, and that you will grow your DNP project beginning with thinking along these lines. And then it really begins too with the patterns of knowing from your last discussion forum as well. So I hope you'll enjoy this assignment, and let your course faculty know if you have any questions or concerns.